Internets! Hello, you lovelies, and welcome to This Week in Comics. I've been doing this show a couple months, but I think this is the biggest episode to date. If you're new to this show, I read about 50 to 60 comics a week, so you don't have to. I give you the big 9 of the week, my personal favorite 9 comics. You can find some stuff you might like at the local comic store. But I also break down the comic news of the week, which is why this is the biggest show to date, because we finally got a new Venom trailer. That's right, we are getting Venom 3 this year, and we've gotten our first look at the madness. Going to talk about that in the middle of the episode, as well as the news that we are getting another ZACK SNYDER 300, this time in the form of a TV show as a prequel. On top of that, we just got word that Charlie Hunnam is joining the Criminal Show, which is something I've been very excited about, and one of my favorite new comics in the last 10 years, Department of Truth, is finally coming back. So, all of that news. But first, let's break down my top 9 comics from the week of May 29th. This is This Week in Comics.
Let's do the list. Spider-Man.
Guilty.
The Incredible Hulk.
Afraid so.
Oh man, this is so cool. The X-Men.
Now that you mention it.
First up, I want to give an honorable mention to Avengers Twilight number 6. This concludes the miniseries from Chip Zdarsky and Acuna that I really liked. It just didn't quite stick the landing for me to make my top 9, but overall the miniseries really worked for me. The end just felt a little formulaic, but honorable mention, this would have been number 10 of the week. Next up, we've got Batman Dark Ages number 3. This is from Russell and Mike Allred. This book is so much fun. The art by Allred is always incredible, but this is Batman basically in a retirement home looking back at his life, but it's got some twists and turns. There's a CEO of Gotham that's utilizing certain things. It deals with the corruption of Gotham in a really interesting way, dealing with what level of pharmaceutical drug and street drug that Wayne Enterprises kind of like finagles. It's a really cool commentary on society, which is what Batman really does well, and the art is awesome. Definitely check out this book. Then we've got Dawn Runner number 3. This one I keep talking about every month, and I'm still in love with it. This is from Cagle and Ram V. Now, this book feels like Ghost in the Shell meets Gundam. It is very much a giant mech kaiju action set piece, but there's 2 lead characters that have tons of psychology to break into, dealing with this futuristic world and what it might be like to wield these mechs and what the world becomes with that much power. This particular issue dives into the psychology of the second protagonist more than we've seen so far. Don't want to give too much away, but if you like Ghost in the Shell, definitely check this one out. Then we've got Grommets number 1. This book is delightful. This is from Rick Remender, Brian Posehn, both writers that I adore, and Parson on art, and this is a very fun slice of life book. Grommets being skateboard parts, like the grommets on a skateboard. This is a day in the life, almost Dazed and Confused-esque, down-to-earth book. I love when a book can be chilled and this well-written and this funny and this approachable. This is exactly what I love in my non-capes comics. And Brian Posehn, he's just so funny. He's written some of the best Deadpool. He's also one of the comedians that I find very approachable in his commentary. And then Rick Remender, Deadly Class, Scumbag, Napalm Lullaby. Like, this guy's writing is so good and so consistent. This book, I think, is really going to be one for the year. Then we've got Harley Quinn number 40 from Teenie Howard and Bustos. This book is so good. This feels like a sequel to the annual that came out earlier this year. It's basically Harley Quinn using her therapy skills to also fight crime. So she's trying to find criminals that are in need of help and therapize them while going on heists. So this issue deals with Mr. Freeze and a battle of wits between them. It deals with a very interesting take on these mythological psychopaths in the world of Gotham. It has so much going on that is the fun of Harley, but also finally using some of the therapy and psychology of Harley. Harley Quinn's a character I think is so slept on. I mean, she's obviously very popular, but she's a really good character when written well, and this is a very well-written Harley Quinn. Check out number 40. Then we've got Once Upon a Time at the End of the World number 15. This concludes Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. This book has been, it started so strong for me, and then it dipped in the middle, but I'm so glad to say it landed at the end. This really stuck the landing emotionally. I love these 2 characters. Jason Aaron wrote this crazy, hypersexual, dystopian world that has all these psychedelic tendencies, but they didn't always stick the landing. The Mad Max of it took over sometimes, and then the psychedelic took over sometimes, and I never felt like they found each other. But luckily, this ending, they did find each other in a way. I'm not giving away the ending, but the themes found each other, and I really love these characters enough that I love that when all is resolved, I felt something, and that's what you want from a book like this. So this is the end of that run. It'll be collected in a trade probably in the next couple months. And we've got Penguin number 10 from Tom King and Della Torre. This book was just announced to be confirmed as a 12-issue miniseries, which means we've only got 2 more after this one. This particular issue deals with like 3 different POVs. It juggles a lot of psychology of different characters. This is a story of Penguin basically reclaiming his power in Gotham, and his kids have tried to steal some of that. So you get a lot of parental dynamics. You also get a lot of the dynamics between Batman and Penguin, but you also got this really cool action set piece that takes place on land, air, and water, and they use that along with those different psychologies to really have a dynamic book. I do worry, because this ends in 2 issues, how it's going to land. The first issue mirrors where it goes, but there's a lot to cover in these 2 issues, so I'm curious how that goes. But this book has been really consistent for me, and I really like Tom King's Batman quite a bit. And the book of the week, and the book of most months, Ultimate Spider-Man number 5. I feel like anytime there's an Ultimate Spider-Man out, that is just what I want to talk about. This issue is so good as ever. Hickman really, really knows these characters. This is a very Harry Osborn-centric issue. You meet Norman, you find out what happened, you find out what's going on at Oscorp, you get some really cool origins to Oscorp tying into things in a new way. Those old Amazing Spider-Man movies with Andrew Garfield tried to do a lot. This is the way to do that correctly. There's a lot of Oscorp DNA. They play around with Kingpin, they play around with the Starks, they play around with billionaires and legacy and money and technology, and you meet Otto Octavius. This issue is stacked, and there's a great conversation between Peter Parker and Harry Osborn that ties into issue 4. The chronology is great, the writing is great, the world building is great. Ultimate Spider-Man is an all-timer. The 2000s run is my favorite comic run. It is the book I say, if you've never read a comic, check out Ultimate Spider-Man. This is the penultimate issue of this arc. Issue 6, out next month, is the big finale of this first arc. If that sticks the landing, this will live right there with, oh my god, you've got to check out this comic. This is such an approachable book. Ultimate Spider-Man, do not sleep on it. Next week, they're doing a 4th or 5th printing of the first couple issues. So get to the store, get some copies, and enjoy this book. It is genius. Cannot speak higher of it. And finally, just because of the alphabet, my number 9 poll of the week is Uncanny Valley number 2. This is from Tony Fleece and Watcher. This book is insane. This is a kid who finds out that he's related to cartoons, and he's always seen things, but everyone thought it was in his imagination. But it's actually because a lot of people grow out of being able to see things, and he didn't. So he finds out his grandpa is basically a cartoon cowboy-esque character, and in this issue, he realizes who's chasing him, and the stakes are upped, but also that he has some cartoony powers, and it plays with mediums really well. It plays with concepts of reality and cartoons really well. It plays with Looney Tunes physics well. This book is so fun. I knew when the title was announced and like the team I'd be interested. This one really sold me on why this book is so insane. Check out Uncanny Valley before it gets too far in. People are going to be talking about this book, especially if you love indie comics. This is my top 9 of the last week of May. It was a very strong last week of May, but now I know a lot of you are here for the news. Let's talk about that Venom trailer. Let's talk about Criminal. Let's talk about 300. Let's talk about Department of Truth. Let's get into it.
Just after 6 in the morning, we just got the Venom the Last Dance trailer, and I love these Venom movies. I had been unapologetically all about these Venom movies, and this one looks as insane or more than the other 2. I love how much practical is somehow used. Obviously, Venom isn't practical, but the stunt work, the lighting, the scope, I love how much they zoomed out. I think a big problem with the first 2 Venom movies is at times the action is like the old Hulk films, where it's so dark the CGI becomes a blend of each other. This looks like it's a well-lit bit of insanity. The humor in this is my exact cup of tea. If you look at the old 90s Venom comics, Venom is a weird dude. Eddie Brock is an odd guy. This humor, I've said from the beginning, is exactly Venom. Tom Hardy really does get this character. Venom should be uncomfortable and disconcerting in his humor. He is a man that is sworn to lethally protect, that thinks he's doing the right thing while biting people's heads off. This captures that. I love the We Are Venom symbiosis, them navigating, forming together. I think we see full symbiosis in this film. It also looks like we get something called xenophages. Xenophages are these symbiote hunters, basically. They're like these creatures that eat and consume symbiotes, and that's what I'm guessing the creature they're fighting on the plane is, which is interesting because it looks like the planet comes to attack Eddie, like things from Clintar. I'm wondering if we get any nods to Null. I don't know since this last film, but the whole Planet Clintar concept looks to be at play here. I'm also wondering with those life symbiotes from the separation anxiety storyline. We see that blop 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 of multiple symbiotes. Do we get the Life Foundation symbiotes like their first appearance where there's 5 of them? Is this the family that Tom Hardy is basically road tripping with? I'm wondering. Like, do we see Risa Fawns as a symbiote? And we've got Patrick Mulligan back. Do we get Toxin in this film? What's the big villain gonna be? And it looks like we're also getting like a military unit a la the separation anxiety storyline. I think they were called the Jury, and they're all military guys but in upgraded tech. And I can see this fully going the insanity of that, getting them in different colors, getting them basically the most comic accurate of that insane storyline I think could come out of this. The tone of this film looks like it could go full comic-y to even that scale. And that's the fun of these movies, is the comedy's at an 11 because that's where the character is. The visuals are already insane. That horse, man, I love that Venom horse. That Venom horse was such a surprise. And that's what I think we're going to get in this one. A lot more Venomized things, a lot more insane scope, because the first two made almost $1 billion each. And this is the last dance. This is the last ride, not just Miss Chen's last dance, but this is the last hurrah potentially of Eddie Brock's Venom. Go all the way, flex that budget. It looks like they really took their time building out the world, and it looks like they know what they wanted to make. So this looks very confident. It looks very intentional. It looks very fun. It looks like the action ups a few notches, and it looks like what I want out of one last ride with Venom. I'm genuinely excited. Will it have Spider-Man? I don't know. Do I want it to have Spider-Man? Andrew Garfield. But will it? I don't know. I do think maybe there's an opportunity for Venom to see, maybe through a memory or through whatever time portal element they use, that the Spider-Man spider appears on his suit. Like maybe we finally get the fully formed Venom image. It does look like there's that scene with Chiwetel Ejiofor and Danny Rojas where it looks like he's holding the symbiote. So I don't think it got stuck in the MCU. I think they capture it in some way. It's also interesting to see Juno Temple and Danny Rojas in something that isn't Ted Lasso together. Also, with Risa Fawns in this, not in Amazing Spider-Man lizard mode, and with Chiwetel Ejiofor not in, Doctor Strange mode, very interesting casting choices. Is that going to be multiversal? Is it they just wanted to cast good actors? Is it casting to see the multiversal versions of these things? A lot of questions. Maybe they'll even acknowledge like, oh, I'm not you in this universe. Maybe that's a way they acknowledge Spider-Man. Are the 10-year ago Spider-Man rumors true? There's a spider crawling on my car as I film this review. So this feels like a sign. All right, guys, this is my Venom The Last Dance last thoughts. And this spider is going to be my co-host. All right, that is going to do it for my Venom thoughts. Let me know what you guys thought of the trailer below. I'm excited. I love the first two. This one looks even better. Bring it on. What a weird time.
And if that's not enough, they also announced Zack Snyder is doing more 300. That's right, 300, the movie that really established the man as a household name, coming back as a TV show for Warner Brothers Television. Now, he is teaming up with his wife again, who he always produces with, and that duo, I think, produces some really fascinating things. So I'm very excited about this. And honestly, you guys have probably dealt with the internet and me with the Snyder of it all. I really love Snyder's world as Elseworlds. I just personally see the characters he's adapted differently than he does. I think he's a very talented filmmaker. We just see the characters differently. So I love when he does stuff like 300. I love when he does things like Watchmen, because he and I see Watchmen a lot more similarly. And 300, I love Frank Miller, but that hyper-masculine, hyper-stylized world is exactly Zack Snyder. And to do a prequel, to set things up, obviously it's hard to do a sequel to 300, they did, but it's harder to go that way. Setting up the world of the Spartans, setting up Leonidas' legacy with the Spartans that came before him, I think is genius. I also love this as long form. I think Frank Miller is made to be serialized. Obviously, I'd love a lot more Sin City movies, but this idea of Snyder back in the world of 300 has me really excited. I think Warner Brothers is really focusing on IP. They've said as much with, let's make more Harry Potter, let's focus on our DC brand, let's look at the IP we have. This is a genius move. The 300 name is still very strong. Zack Snyder's name is still very strong. Put these two together, make a show. Nothing else has been announced yet, but this is big news. I'm very excited about a 300 show. Now, this next news story is very nerdy, and I'm very excited because Criminal is not a household name comic like I want it to be, but now it might be. Charlie Hunnam has just signed on as the lead of Criminal. This book has made my top 10 of a lot of years that it's come out. It is a mythology anthology series about crime where there's all these different interconnected stories that come together and you realize some characters share legacy and lore. It's like Magnolia meets Goodfellas, and it's insane. So with Charlie Hunnam on, this is now something that'll probably get more people to be aware of the book. It is from Sean Phillips. Sean Phillips' art is so gritty and pulpy and noir, and it's written by Ed Brubaker. Now, Ed Brubaker is the guy that brought us Winter Soldier. Before Ed Brubaker, Bucky had stayed dead for like 50 years. Ed Brubaker is the guy that's responsible for a lot of the really gritty, dark Marvel, and then when he goes indie, Criminal is his, like, pièce de résistance. It's a beautiful, powerful book. If you've followed me for years, you know how much I love Criminal. I'm really excited that Hunnam's going to be playing this guy. This is so Guy Ritchie-esque in a performance, and I think when Hunnam works in those spaces, in that like crime and gritty space, that's when he thrives. Now, Charlie Hunnam's going to be playing Leo, who's described as a brilliant master thief who sees all the angles and specializes in plans with no guns and no violence. Like a chess player, Leo thinks 3 moves ahead. Other crooks think he's a coward, especially compared to his father, Tommy, who went to jail for murdering the most feared man in the city, Teague Lawless. So, it sounds like they're directly adapting a couple of the big arcs in the first couple volumes. I think this is a really good move. As I said, very Guy Ritchie-esque, very much what Charlie Hunnam, I think, does best. A very likable, unlikable performance, and man, Charlie Hunnam's a delight. I cannot wait for this. Already signed on were Audrey Ahonia and Richard Jenkins, 2 very talented actors that are also, like, should be household names. I want this so bad, and I'm so excited that it's coming together so quickly. This is an Amazon show, I believe, so I cannot wait. I think this is going to be one of those, like, I can't believe that's a comic book, like Road to Perdition and some of the other adaptations. More things like this. And finally, Department of Truth is back, or it's about to be. Department of Truth is, I would put up with Saga as one of my favorite new comics. Now, Saga's been out for about 15 years now, so it's not as new, but Department of Truth is only a few years old, and it immediately wrapped me up in its wonders. This is a book where basically, if something is thought of true enough, if enough people believe something, it becomes true. So if enough people believe in Sasquatch, suddenly we have Sasquatch problems. If enough people believe in conspiracies, they become real in our world. So it's like X-Files meets conspiracy theorists. Well, not that X-Files isn't, but imagine a team that's responsible for stopping things from getting too big and becoming too real, and then an opposing team trying to plant falsities in the world to take control. So that's the Department of Truth. It is so inventive, so interesting. It's written by James Tynion IV, one of my favorite writers working, who's so consistently great and so inventive. And then Martin Simmons on art is this really pulpy, dark, almost like Are You Afraid of the Dark meets, it's got such a rich, almost inkblot style, and it blends this horrible concept with horrible imagery in a way that feels horribly great. So check out Department of Truth because it is coming back. Press release said issue number 23 will pick up on the series' shocking cliffhanger as the Department of Truth was confronted with an enemy intent on exposing their secrets to the world. But the Department of Truth ended up making a shocking choice. Go public first. To understand Lee Harvey Oswald's risky gambit, readers will return to where it all started. Dallas, 1963, as President John F. Kennedy's motorcade passed the grassy knoll. So basically, it's dealing with some of the biggest conspiracy theories in American history and weaponizing them and turning them into giant, cool character arcs and stories. So we're getting a milestone issue 25, which is supposed to be coming out in the next, 3 months. The writer, James Tynion, said, quote, "Online and at conventions more than any other question, Martin and I have heard readers patiently asking when is Department of Truth coming back, and we're very excited to say the answer is now." James Tynion IV said, "There was never a more prudent time to turn over the grimy stories of the American bedrock and shine a light on what's crawling beneath in the dark. And since our first issue, the very darkest mysteries have seemed to zero in around Lee Harvey Oswald and one fateful day in Dealey Plaza in 1963. These next issues of the Department of Truth will answer once and for all who really shot JFK." So, issue 23, like I said, where we left off, that cliffhanger is going to debut on Wednesday, June 26th, and then 2 months later, big milestone 25th anniversary issue. So, we've been asking a long time, and now we know. Department of Truth is back at the end of this month, and I am overjoyed. Those are the news stories from this week in comics. Let's preview what's available at your local comic store this week. So these are the books I'm going to be checking out this week, June 5th. First up from Marvel, we've got Aliens What If number 4, which is continuing that what if story that I've been really enjoying about what would have happened if Paul Reiser's character survived. We've got Amazing Spider-Man number 51, continuing after that big anniversary issue. It looks like we've got new Sinister Six stuff cooking. Then we've got Blood Hunters number 2. This ties into that big Blood Hunt event, the giant vampire event going on over at Marvel. Carnage number 8, one of my most surprising books in the last few years. How good and inventive and rich with mythology this Carnage story has become. Get Fury number 2. This is a kind of a Punisher-esque espionage book. Only 2 issues in. If you like Fury and you want to read more about Nick Fury, this is some OG spy stuff. Ghost Rider Final Vengeance number 4, continuing a last story of Johnny Blaze. I'm sure he'll be fine, but it is one of those like end of arc stories. Miss Marvel Mutant Menace number 4. Now that we've had Miss Marvel in the X-Men, her dealing with the ramifications of not only being ostracized as an Inhuman, as a teenager defending the city, but now also as a mutant and all the consequences therein. This started as a book co-written by the actress who actually plays Miss Marvel, and it's really inventive and really fun, and I highly recommend it. We've got Star Wars number 47, Star Wars The High Republic number 8, then we've got a new Ultimate book debuting. You guys heard me rant and rave about how good Ultimate Spider-Man is. Ultimate X-Men isn't quite singing as much for me yet, but I think it'll get there. Ultimate Black Panther is very strong, but not quite as high as Ultimate Spider-Man. Now we've got another book, an Avengers book, with Ultimates number 1. This is going to be a giant event book, so if you want to check out the Ultimates now, I'd get the book because it's probably going to sell out. The rest I'll have. So Ultimates number 1 drops this week, and it's their Avengers title within this new Ultimate Universe. Venom number 34, we're post this Venom Carnage fight. Curious where things go. What if Venom has been, this is issue 5 issues of what if the Venom symbiote got on someone else, and it's been everywhere, and now it's going to be Moon Knight's turn. If you want to see a Venomized Moon Knight, check out What If number 5 Venom. Wolverine Blood Hunt number 1 is a new book, I believe, dealing with a side mission of Wolverine in this giant summer event. Wolverine has like 5 books coming out in July. I'm excited about a lot of them. This one intrigues me because we haven't really seen the X-Men involved in Blood Hunt that deeply. Then the big X-Men book of the week is 35. This is it. This is the big send-off. This is the end of Krakoa. This is, I think, a legacy like 800 issue. But this 35, big wraparound cover, big final hurrah. If you've been loving Krakoa, you got to check out issue 35. This is going to be a big one. From DC Comics, we've got Batman number 148. This is the psychology stuff with Batman fighting his own mechanized version of himself. He stored his own psychology away as a backup, and then it became weaponized in this thing called Failsafe. And it's an interesting villain. It's not working for me all the time, but between that and the stuff with the Joker, it's consistent enough. Curious where this lands at the big 150, but 148's out this week. Batman and Scooby-Doo Mysteries number 6. If you like Batman, you like Scooby-Doo. You got answers. Batman Justice Buster number 3, a very stylized take on Batman and a very different take. We've got Birds of Prey number 10. I'm loving this team-up book. The team has changed a little in the last couple issues, and Thompson is writing the hell out of everyone on it. I really love this badass group. We've got The Boy Wonder number 2. This is a very dark take. This is a Black Label book on Batman, and it has been fun to see Robin get his time to shine in this world. We've got DC Pride, a celebration of Rachel Pollack. This is, I don't know, I actually don't know. I'm going to own that. I got to look it up, but I didn't do that before, so we'll find out together. We've got Kneel Before Zod, number 6. This has admittedly fallen off for me. The first 3 issues I was all in. We're getting in the mythology of the Kryptonians, but something about Zod isn't quite captivating enough to have me, but I'm hoping it gets me back. My Adventures with Superman, number 1. This is the comic universe version of the Jack Quaid My Adventures of Superman show. So if you enjoy that animated My Adventures of Superman show, and you should check it out because it's really good, really inventive, Elseworlds take on Superman that covers a lot of ground really quickly. So fun. Here's the comic. So this is going to be like the X-Men 97 comic, tying into the continuity of the show in a comic in a new way. So you've never had to read a Superman book in your life, you can pick up this number 1 and know what's going on. And I think it's going to be really fun. Poison Ivy 23, love this book, love this title. Basically, Poison Ivy is an eco-terrorist, sure, but she's trying to save the planet. So who's worse, a billionaire or someone trying to save the planet? And it's a really fun psychology of what led her to be willing to do these horrible things and how she is just trying to help, but if you can push someone far enough, you see where they go. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You, 128. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You has been running so long, it's at 128. Shazam, number 12. And finally, Suicide Squad, Kill Arkham Asylum, number 4. This ties into the Suicide Squad game, and it's surprisingly good. Gives you a lot of cool back lore and stuff with these characters. The books I'm going to be reading from Image this week include Bear, Pirate, Viking, Queen. This book's just metal. It's crazy. It's like the Northman movie. It feels very Eggers. It feels very insane. It's got this great scripture and prose. It feels like the Odyssey or the Iliad. It's big. And this book I'm picking up just because the title is metal as hell. It is called Falling in Love on the Path to Hell. I want to read that. It looks like it's got like a Star Wars samurai-esque cover, and then the title's that badass, and it's written by Jerry Duggan, one of my favorite writers out there, who wrote some of my favorite Deadpool stuff of all time. We've also got Gunslinger Spawn number 32, I Hate Fairyland number 15, and then my big book of the week from Image is The Last Mermaid number 4. I love this art. I love the mythology they're building. So far, it is delightful. We've got Love Everlasting number 15 from Tom King, as well as Precious Metal number 1. I don't know anything about this, but as you guys know, I read every new Image number 1 to discover some new books. And finally, from Image, the book I'm really excited about is Scarlet number 1, because I think they're doing a really good job building out this new skyboundy G.I. Joey universe, and Scarlet looks like a fascinating take on that character, so I'm going to be diving into that. Nothing for me personally from IDW this week, and from Dark Horse, same. A lot of weeks, there's a lot of stuff, just personally, I'm not pulling anything from those two this week. But from Dynamite, I am pulling Lilo and Stitch #4. If you have kids, this Lilo and Stitch book has been so fun. I'm not even that big of a fan of the movie. Like, I'm a casual Lilo and Stitch fan, but the comic is so delightful, so heartwarming, so warm and fuzzy, and good morals, good lessons, good stuff in a comic. So it's only 4 issues in. If you want to get something for your kids, I definitely think Lilo and Stitch has been a very good run over from Dynamite Comics. That is going to do it for me. Also, Space Ghost 2 from Dynamite. I might check that out too. I liked issue 1. Those are going to be the books I'm checking out this first week of June. This was a big episode. We had a lot of news. We had a lot of comics. My homework assignment for you lovelies. Last week you did an amazing job and let me know what comic got you back into comics. I want to know down below what comic you would recommend to someone if they've never read a comic. What's your, hey, I think you'd like this, because I really want people to read this comment below and go like, oh, I want to try that out. Again, this is a local comic shop digital. This is the conversations we have in the back of the comic store about like what's cool and crazy. Have that below in the message board because I had a lot of fun with it last time. So what comic would you recommend to someone that they have never read a comic in their life? Please do like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Let me know what else you want this show to be. And let's keep growing this. I passed 26, almost. I'm like 25.9. I'm almost at 26K. Let's keep it going. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'll see you soon.